Come here. Are you a virgin?
Yeah.
Do you know what a clitoris is?
Hey guys, welcome back. Trey Keys here with your standard issue. Today we have a special guest, my lovely wife, Amanda Keys.
Hi, everybody.
Today we'll be talking about Hocus Pocus.
Why? Is it because it's just a bunch of hocus pocus?
Could be. First off, I want to talk about how we ended up going to see this thing in theaters. As you know, it's been on the air for, well, at least since I was a kid.
I think it was in 17 years.
I was literally confused when my wife asked if we could go see this in theaters. Reason being, because not only do we have Disney Plus, but we've seen it on air like at least once a year. How exactly were you convinced to go and see this thing in theaters? What made you feel like, hey, was totally worth it?
Okay, so date night for us a lot of the time is going to the movies. And so I was on the Cinemark app, scrolling through what movies are playing, which there's not a lot of options right now because of COVID. And I was like, no way, Hocus Pocus. Tickets are only $5, which was great.
Going to see it actually was really nice. I felt like it was almost a different experience because I definitely pulled things away from the movie that I didn't see originally. For instance, as you know, the whole plot behind this thing, the synopsis of it, is that these three witches are trying to regain their youth by stealing it from the souls of little children. And as a kid who saw this movie, when they devour the soul of the first kid that they encounter, Zachary Binks' little sister, I didn't notice that they became younger after doing that. And so after they've killed this little girl, I'm sitting here thinking like, they did all of this for a state of mind so that they would feel younger. Seeing it in theaters, like they actually do kind of de-age them. Like there's rot in their teeth that disappears after they've killed this little girl. Their wrinkles in their face are gone now. I can't believe I've never noticed it before, and I almost wonder if it's not just me, and if it's actually something that they've updated since they've put it in theaters. But I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that.
It's a good question because I honestly can't remember whether they looked old or not. I remember them exactly how they are on the cover of the thumbnails for Hocus Pocus. Yeah, I really was surprised at the beginning. I had completely forgot that it started with Zachary waking up and his sister Emily being gone, and then I remembered him chasing her in the field as she was following Sarah Sanderson, but I did not remember it being in a village at all. I just remembered the field.
And I want to say too, just in that sequence, which I always like the stuff that takes place in the past, because I feel like it's very foreign to us of what we see in our everyday life. So seeing the story take place there, I was really engaged. The only thing that kind of for me bugged me a little bit was kind of the level of acting from the kid playing Zachary. I don't know if it was because he was trying to go for more of a Shakespearean vibe or what, but it felt just not as serious as it could have been from him.
Really?
His little sister had been kidnapped. You would think it was this urgency, this freak out moment, and he kind of just seems kind of hey, go and get the rest of the elders. We're gonna go catch these witches and save my sister.
See, I have to disagree with everything you're saying. I feel like his reaction to sister missing in a time where they knew witches were real, and him, he flips his hair out of his way because he's been moving so fast that he's disheveled, and his friend or his brother, I don't really know what the relation is between the two. He's just asking them to go get help from the adults while he tries himself to go save his sister, which is something I think that an older brother would do in the case like that.
I agree. I mean, I do feel like he could have like yelled for his mom and dad as he was chasing after her. Like,
but you don't know where they were in the village.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, there's little details like that you're not fully aware of. Like, you know, just the little girls just wandering off and none of the adults or anything being fully present. It almost feels like in that moment, there was like only 4 people in the town. That's just like the way it seems. Like maybe they had to literally leave in order to go get the adults. So, yeah. And then also, too, one of the things that they acknowledge is that there are witches that are in the forest in the distance. Zachary says it himself. Look, they brew their magic or whatever, and they run off. Which to me tells me that the whole town is aware that there's witches over there, but they haven't done anything about it. Which historically, I feel like could be inaccurate just because... If you follow the stories behind that, then they were pretty much hunting down anybody that they suspected of witchcraft.
A girl answered a math problem. You know what that means. A witch!
How come they haven't killed these people if they know that there's witches there?
It's a family and children's movie, you know,
right?
So they're not gonna.
My apologies, kids. I'm sorry. I'm overthinking you guys' movie. So the modern day characters, their names are forgettable. I don't remember the parents' names. I don't remember. Yeah,
were the parents' names ever said?
They may not have been. The main character, I wasn't really too invested in him from the jump because he comes across as just moody teenager. He has like this beef with Halloween and is like, hey, all of this is just Hocus Pocus, right? You know, because that's the name of the movie.
And to be honest, like I feel like it's not necessarily his beef with Halloween itself. It's the fact that he doesn't believe in like the witches and the ghosts and, you know, the, I guess, mischief of Halloween. So that's more of his beef with it. It's not necessarily Halloween itself. Although he does say the line, it's something like, it was invented by the candy companies. Right.
And I was like, where'd you hear that information? Because it is not invented by the candy companies. In regards to this kid, his emotional state towards Halloween and all of that. It may just because he's the new kid and he's, you know, here around this point in time and this is a thing clearly that the town celebrates. And it's not like members of the town believe in the witches and all of that, but just more so that they know that there's a historical fact behind their presence in this town. There's a story that everybody knows. They're literally the opening act that we saw. It is a story that is being told to the kids as they are in class. And so, you know, it's basically historical fact. They know for a fact that it happened, right? But not to say that they believe in the magical sense of it. They just know for a fact that their town has a history of it. And so this guy shows up and is like, come on, you guys are really delicious and all that. Come on, man, get out of here. It's just the history. And that, for me, is like what you have to respect. And then Halloween is literally a holiday they celebrate everywhere in the US of A. So the fact that...
you know, that's so true. And, you know, his ignorance really coming to him, you know, lighting that black flame candle, thinking this is going to be so funny. Like nothing is going to happen. But the reality is, in this movie, that it does
happen. And even if it was not in the reality of this movie, it's still like, wow, you're such a douche. Like, what are you trying to prove exactly? Even if it doesn't light and have the effect it does.
In my personal opinion, this is like playing with a Ouija board. If there's a chance that something bad's going to happen, if you do it, then why don't you just not do it?
Gotta be the one that starts the plot of the movie. That's the only way that the story can happen. And then the cat, I think that's the thing that threw me off about the cat is that they're allowed to get this far and the cat does. Like, I am curious as to whether or not the cat can only speak because of the black candle or if the cat was able to speak prior to this and has just never done it.
You know, and you don't know if he has never done it. But I think that also the reason why we hadn't seen him and it was until the black flame candle thing is because he had mixed emotions of whether he wanted it lit so he could eventually actually pass on and be with the rest of his family, but also not wanting it lit because of humanity and him not wanting the witches to come back to life.
I suppose that is a possibility. I never taken into consideration.
Well,
you only see his like annoyance, like
I see his annoyance, but at the end of the movie, he says something around the lines, when Emily says, Zachary, what took you so long? And he said, I only had to wait 300 years for a virgin to light a candle.
On Halloween night, as he's taking his little sister trick-or-treating, they encounter a couple of bullies. And I don't know, even these bullies are so corny. You got the one dude who has ice cut into the back of his haircut.
Yeah, he has a tool.
Max and his sister, Dani, are right in front of this house that has like these guys just sitting right there on the fence, just taking the candy from the kids who just got it from the people who live at the house right at the end of the walkway. And they're not saying anything to these punks that are sitting on their property.
Right. And then what's funny is when Dani goes, my brother is a little leaguer. Like that's supposed to be like all big and bad. Right.
Like, yeah. But that's what I loved about Dani's character is that she would stand up to the bullies. She has more guts than her actual brother.
For all we know, Max already tried to stand up to them when they stole his shoes and failed.
That's true. It happens off screen.
So, reality is he doesn't want to get into another altercation with them because the last time he didn't win.
Right. Yeah. He might need to hit up Miyagi.
Wax on, wax off.
The arrival of the witches. That is done really well. Very spooky. How they have the house kind of shaking, lights flickering, and
the green underneath the floorboards.
Right. It's done really haunted house. One of the things that I really loved about these witches is definitely their personality, but I also really love the fact that the movie is, I'm going to criticize them for this later, but aware that they are not familiar with today's time and how everything works. When they step out of when the sprinklers are cut on and Max is like, yeah, the rain of fire or something like that. And then they're like, oh my God, we're burning. And then they're like, oh, it's just water, because of the sprinkler system. So they're not familiar with that. They go outside and they're nervous to step on the street because they think it's like a black river. It's something they've never seen before. And the reason why I say I'm going to criticize them for this is because by the end of the movie, Max is driving a car and they fly on their broomsticks alongside to try to stop them.
And
Winifred is like, let me see your driver's permit. Pull over. And I'm like,
how does she know about that?
Right. Where did you learn that? I literally don't remember a situation in which you would have learned some information.
And there's not enough time for her to have learned that. I mean, maybe she learned on the bus.
Maybe, but why would the bus driver teach her anything about...
Yeah, he was a little horn dog, so yeah. I don't know, because it's literally this is all happening in one night.
Yeah, I truthfully don't get that part. It really kind of... It didn't take me out of the movie, but it was definitely something I noticed. They get on the bus, and yeah, the guy's a bit of a horn dog. He's going after the blondie, Sarah Paulson.
What does he say? He says, hubba, hubba. He asks the sisters, something like, what do you want? And they're like, we want children. And
it's kind of like a joke for the parents.
Completely went over my head as
yeah, I didn't get it. They run over Zachary and he comes back to life, showing his immortality, which I thought was a nice way to introduce that.
They get off the bus and then they think they've seen Satan. This guy does not look like a real devil. He's literally wearing red pajamas with devil horns.
Which makes me think like maybe this is what the devil looks like because they were dead, and now they're not.
They're like, oh,
so maybe
master.
They're saying that what the devil actually looks like, and as proof of that they're not fully aware of the time. Now there's all these goblets and ghouls and monsters running around.
I smell children, but I don't see them.
Right. So it's another testament that they're not fully aware of modern time. As they begin to really like buckle down to hunt down these kids, they chase them to this, I guess the town hall where they're having a big dance. And that's when they have the famous "I put a spell on you" song.
Yeah. They have these lines on the song. Like, I don't even know what they're saying. And like, the only thing I can assume is that it's like some other language. It's like how they're saying their spell or something. But if you continue to watch past the song, you realize that they say the spell after they sing the song. So I'm like really trying to figure out what it is they're saying.
So yeah, the song, the number, and everything that they do, it's done really well, choreographed and everything. I mean, these sisters are hitting it, and those lyrics that
They're
they
like
add
dancing.
in there,
They're like,
that 65, something like that. I don't know,
baby, up on right.
Right? Everybody gets into it, and then they say, "Hey, dance until you die," and everybody keeps dancing, despite the fact that there's the kids just got chased off. I think it's like part of a thing that they're doing to introduce these strangers.
The thing I'm trying to understand is how do the kids break away from the spell, but
right? Well,
everyone else can't. Is it because they're aware of it?
I think it's because they're aware, and they also say don't listen to them.
Right. But
that means they're not listening.
Listen, I'm talking in reality. I mean, I guess suspense, disbelief, blah blah blah. But I'm like, literally, if I go like this, I can still hear. So
right. But that doesn't mean that it's not helping. We don't really know how their magic works. I think that's too a strength of this movie is that we don't fully know how their magic works.
True.
We don't really know all the deets of what allows for their magic or whatever for them to be possible to find them like how we have. Like there's no indication exactly that's like at one point we know exactly how they're found. It's because they open a book and a light goes shooting into the sky and you're like, oh, that must be where they are. Right. But in the other point, it's just like, you don't really know.
Didn't that happen though?
The sister says she can smell them, but I feel like there's a radius on that thing.
Yeah. Okay, so what I want to talk about though is Billy.
Yes.
The zombie. Okay, when he first is resurrected out of his grave, he's kind of a scary character. Everyone's afraid of him.
Yeah.
Even though Binks knows his story, knows that he was Winifred's lover and was caught with Sarah, and knows that Winifred put him in his grave and even sewed his mouth shut. So why would Max or Dani or Allison even think for a second that Billy would be on the sister's side?
Well, so truthfully, from what I saw from this, it seems like it's there might be an inconsistency in the writing on this section. Not to say that there was poor writing, it's just to say that it seems like maybe they intended to go another direction and then kind of, flipped it around and went the other way. Because initially, when these kids go to the graveyard, they say, oh, this is hallowed ground, witches can't step foot here. But when they go there, Thackeray brings them immediately to Billy's grave. And that's when he gives them that whole spiel about the sister's lover that was buried there. And so you got to wonder, like, why did he bring them there of all places? You get the graveyard as a whole, but specifically there is why there. And yeah, the witches then immediately bring him back. Like, I almost thought that they brought him there for protection or something. But then he's brought back and immediately tries to kill them.
I think Thackeray did bring them to the cemetery for protection. And maybe it was supposed to be they came across Billy's grave by happenstance. And that's when Binks is like, let me tell you the story. But here's my other thing that I'm trying to figure out. Is how does Thackeray know about Billy's story? It would have had to have happened before he ever encountered the Sanderson sisters. Because the day he encountered the Sanderson sisters, they were hung.
Right, that is true. That is true. Wow. How would he have known that piece of information? Because obviously he wouldn't have learned about it after their deaths. Or I suppose that could have been how he learned about that information.
It would have had to have been somebody who knew the Sanderson sisters.
Right, and knew about those events.
Working maybe and then...
Wow, that is a toughie. Because anybody who knew that happened would have killed the Sanderson sisters a long time ago. For murder.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, we just discovered a bit of a plot hole in that movie. They managed to, quote unquote, kill the witches by tricking them into the giant kiln at the high school.
In the ceramic shop.
Yeah. And my middle school had one of these things, but it was small. It was like maybe the size of an oven. So this thing was like huge.
Yeah, it was massive. Because I mean, I used to go to a place where I had like paint ceramics and stuff.
Right.
And my mom was friends with the owner, so we'd go upstairs, and the kiln is like literally like this big thing, probably about this big, and it closes with a lid, and it's just a big oven. So I've never seen one the size of like a walk-in restaurant
that's big enough to burn 3 people alive. Like that is dangerous. Anyway, so the witches also come back. They survive this. Like they go from in the air as green smoke and reform back into their bodies. And apparently they now know French.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi, Clash?
Because that's what was on the radio
Right,
that tricked them into going to.
Which, I mean, good for them. Great way to learn again. Then they used the salt to seal Dani into the grave. But would that even be necessary? Because if the Sanderson sisters even got that close to the ground to where they could grab Dani and chance falling off their brooms, they turned to stone, which we see Winifred do. She turns to stone before she explodes.
Right, but does she turn to stone? Does she turn to stone because she's standing on the ground, or does she turn to stone because of the sun coming?
No,
it's happening at the same time.
So, from my opinion of it, the reason why I think her turning to stone has to do with being on hallowed ground is because she turns to stone, but her sisters don't turn to stone because they're in the air. They just explode into the color. Where she turns to stone and then explodes into the color.
And the salt, too. The girl decides that she wants to use the salt because I think on the back of the label to the salt, it says that it wards off witches.
I've never seen a salt container that says this, but then again, I don't buy salt like that.
I mean, it may just be because of the area that it's like a product branding thing, but why would you believe it? That's so weird.
It even says it wards off ex-boyfriends.
Right. But you know what, though? I think where she initially got that information may have been from the book. Like when she was trying to find a spell that could save Zachary.
No. I think it's from the salt because she's reading the back.
I remember that too, but I'm saying that it might have been what drew her to look for salt. This is the part that gets me, but I understand it. Okay, so the witches now have the book. They've now made the potion, and the kids of the town are all on their way. And Winifred decides, forget all these kids that are right here on our lawn. Even though we only got a couple of minutes left before the sun comes up, I want Dani because she said that I was ugly.
I'm ugly and I'm proud.
I get that you felt it was very personal. Heck, she even says, it really hurt my feelings. And I'm like, okay, but you're taking it way too personal. I mean, you're willing to risk your life going beyond this night to get the soul of that little girl tonight. How about, just for tonight, you get one of these kids that are right here on your lawn, you drain their soul, regain your youth, and then tomorrow morning, when you're alive and well, you go and get Dani too. Where do you fall on the rating system?
Well, I mean, I would definitely stash it. I think it's just because it's a classic. It's something you grow up, you watch every Halloween season. I mean, even though, rewatching it with new eyes in the movie theater, I think that if maybe this was my first time watching it again, I don't know if it would have as much rewatchability. But because it is a classic, there's so much nostalgia behind watching this movie, it gets the best rating there is.
Okay. And I think I'll back you on that too. And I'll go way above standard just because for me, I know for a fact that once a year in the month of October, I want to see Hocus Pocus. Just because out of all of the Disney Halloween classic movies that came out, this for me is by far easily the best. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Ring my bell if that's what you're into. Be sure to like, share, and comment below. I'm Trey Keys, and this is my lovely wife, Amanda Keys, and this is just a standard issue.